Free advice, would you like some free advice? Free advice forever.
Welcome to the show. We have got a terrible episode for you today.
Yeah, turn it off.
What are you doing listening to this?
It's gonna suck.
Ooh, you picked a real stinker of one to tune in on.
Why is today gonna be so bad, Rob? Can you tell him?
It's gonna be the worst. Me and Morgan, we're just all out of sorts. We don't know what we're talking about. Our sense of humor's down the toilet just like our potty mouths.
And the toilet's backed up, and there's no
Yep.
plunger in sight.
There's going to be a plumber working in the background, real loud, lots of background noise.
Shit water spraying everywhere as the plunger that he brings inevitably.
You're going to smell this podcast through your car stereo on your way to work.
Yeah. And there's no guarantee that there aren't going to be little splatters on your calves of poop water.
Mm-hmm. You're going to try and turn on that air recirculation feature that you know your car has and you're not really sure where the button is. You're going to turn that on and it's not going to make it any better because the smell is coming from inside the car.
And you think that you can just do your laundry and like wash the scent out of all of the cloth that it's touched, but you'd be wrong because that shit seeps into your psyche. And then every time you see those pants, your mind thinks of poop.
Hey, this is a really fun bit, but you just introduced me to a tangent that I want to go on. Do you mind?
Can't wait.
Okay, I did confession, new segment. I did confession. All right.
Okay.
We're introducing that
like with a
segment
priest,
right
you did confession?
I did confession.
Okay.
Here's my I did confession for today.
Okay.
I washed the rag that I've been wiping the grease out of my pans with in the laundry with my regular clothes. And then all my clothes smelled like just like crayon Play-Doh bullshit.
No.
It was bad. So I had all these clean clothes that I folded and then noticed oh wait.
You folded them?
I folded them all.
That's the double whammy of it all.
I put them away and then I was like, I don't even remember which ones they are now. They've assimilated into the population of clothes in my wardrobe.
Are they infecting the other population?
I don't think it's that bad.
Okay.
So I did a smell shirt by shirt, underwear by underwear.
Wow,
then
what
I
a
put the
process.
stuff back in the laundry, and then I washed it with OxyClean dust powder stuff. I put that in there, and I'm happy to report.
Oh my God.
Everything's right as rain. It all smells good again.
Because you said your Hail Marys and your Our Fathers.
Yeah, I did confession. That's the end of that segment. So if you're like me and you've only recently started using rags in the kitchen to wipe up your grease on your cast iron skillets.
I'm sure this is something that everyone is eagerly taking notes on because they're
of
like,
people
I
at
am
this
like
point,
you in
a lot
this
of people
respect.
are like that. They're in their late 20s. They just started cooking. They started outfitting their kitchen with stuff they were excited about using. For instance, cast iron skillets. Oh, it heats so evenly and gets hot so quickly. Oh, and it's non-stick? Wow. You don't even have to use soap to wash it? Wow. All of that stuff's, impressive, makes you feel legit. Oh, I'm working on my forearm strength when I pick this thing up. It's so heavy. Oh, make sure I have a silicone gripper on it, though, because it's one single piece of cast iron. All of that is fun for you when you're starting out. And so you're getting greasy rags. Just throw the rags away and buy new rags. You can get real cheap rags.
Yeah, because what is the cost of ruining all those clothes? Invaluable. It could be priceless, depending on the memories associated.
You can save them, I found.
By washing them again.
Yeah, but
with OxyClean.
That's annoying and lots of time, and you might miss one or two if you've already folded them and put them away.
Thank you for pointing out every single pitfall along the way. That was really helpful.
Yeah, thanks. Well, this is really just therapy for me.
This is really the segment.
The
first segment of our podcast is just therapy for us.
Don't fuck up like I did. Listen, Sonny.
And you won't, but listen to my tale because it's therapeutic for me.
Yeah, I've got some whoa here.
I get that. Yeah. We should call this segment "Whoa There."
Okay. I love it. What about Whoa Nelly? And then when it gets big enough, we can bring on
a guest named Nelly,
famous singer Nelly Furtado.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go rapper Nelly.
Oh no.
That was an intentional curveball, though.
Yes.
Yeah. We ask her to come in, but we tell her she must wear a Band-Aid on her face.
Okay. She probably gets that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we couldn't get Nelly, but you were next in the phone book. There's Nelly with no last name, and then there's Nelly Furtado. So that's how alphabetical works.
And, everyone has this phone book of the stars by their stage names.
if you feel self-conscious about wearing a Band-Aid just for cosmetic reasons, we can give you a little scratch on your cheek so that you're actually covering something.
Wow. That's an amazing service that you provide. What do you charge for a service like that?
$400.
That's a steal.
Yeah. We do take insurance, $75 copay.
And you have to sign a liability waiver.
You do, because we could fuck up and blind you real easy. We get distracted mid-slice.
So what do you think, you guys? You want to hear us keep masturbating over our own stupid jokes?
This is now a phone sex podcast. With jokes.
Yeah, it's called Peeping Toms, and you guys are the Toms peeping on our masturbatory sessions.
Who's got their binoculars up in the tree this evening? I wonder.
And what advice do they need? Rob, do you have any advice that you need this week?
Oh, yeah, something that I've been thinking about is
lay it on me.
When so I haven't had this experience yet. Okay, but it's coming. If I'm prolific, well, I'm asking for friends. Say your friend. I was thinking about Chance the Rapper's album. I'm not.
Who's a friend of yours?
I'm not friends with Chance. Okay.
Or either of the Nellies.
No, I'm not.
Yet.
I'm friends with some artists though that are not on Chance's level who have put out things that meet a negative reception, as Chance's album did, and I was just imagining, like, man, if I was Chance's friend, or if I have a friend in a similar situation, what can I do to help them if they're going from proud and excited to share something, and then the overwhelming public reaction is negative? They should have worked harder, worked longer. They should have gone in a different direction on that thing. What's the best route to take? Like, what am I meant to comfort them? Am I meant to help them do better next time? Yeah, what does that person need in that moment when their baby comes out all fucked up? Metaphorically.
Right, of course.
Different question if I'm talking about babies with deformities and comforting their parents.
Absolutely. We'll handle these matters separately. Good. Although I'm sure there will be some overlap in the advice.
Let's look for that later.
Let's draw out the Venn diagram. No. So, I mean, I think that anytime that we're advising people on support, I think it's valuable to start that conversation with, of course, receive what they're telling you, but then make it clear that you're listening to them, but then ask, like, okay, in light of this, how can I best support you in this moment? So it's like, what's the right wording to ask, and what's the right feedback to share?
Not even that they're necessarily coming to me with the problem, but I know that that's happened. Does that make sense?
So is the question, like, must I act on this information? Can you? I
know that my friend is down because they released an album that they were stoked on, and then people did not like it, and they're internalizing that reaction. And
okay, they have not come to you asking for help. No, you are just aware of this problem. Are they aware that you're aware?
Yeah.
Okay. I have never been in a situation quite like this. I mean, I've made creative products that aren't music, that have gotten negative feedback, like, art pieces and stuff. But, and I think acknowledging that it's really hard to receive any negative feedback, let alone, disproportionately high amount of negative feedback when you release something into the world that, even if you're not proud of it, it's still a tremendous vulnerability to make anything creative and to open yourself up in that way. So I would say they probably, I don't know, maybe are they the kind of person who would would feel embarrassed about you acknowledging this issue?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think I might just, because you imagine that the main feeling that they're feeling is just sort of hurt, like wounded in the sense of like would be reluctant to release further creative products. Because I think it's like thinking about what is the target or what is the goal of making contact with them. Is it to say, I'm here for you if you need anything? Is it to say, hey, keep making creative output even though you got this response? Is it to process specific feedback? I think being clear about like what is your purpose if you are to approach them.
Okay.
And then asking them what would be the most supportive. But overall, letting them know, like, you know, I'm thinking about you, and finding something positive to say about the creative output.
It was easy for me because I, in this situation that I'm referencing, genuinely liked the work, and he was upset about other people's reactions, and I was like, hey, my opinion is that this is full of really good stuff.
Yeah. I think it's hard because we often think that when someone says something, even about us directly, that it's something that we really have to factor into like our self-concept, or it has the potential to infiltrate our self-concept. And so perhaps just reminding him, this is not a commentary on you, your worth as a person, your worth as an artist. This is not an indication that you should stop creating if it brings you joy. If he or she feels that there's room for improving how they handle criticism, if they're going to be in an artist sort of position in their life and continuing to put out creative work, it would be a useful skill for them to learn how to process it more effectively, maybe, because, you know, regardless of if the work is good or if there's potential for them to have a successful career in it, or if they enjoy it and they just want to share it, if that's an activity that they're going to pursue in the future, I think staying grounded in who you are, staying grounded in your relationship with the creative process, your relationship with your own artwork, in the face of negative feedback is really important, because at the end of the day, like, haters gonna hate, and any feedback that you get from someone is filtered through the lens of their life experience, how they feel about your artistic product, if it brought up negative feelings for them, and that could have been part of the intention. You know, discomfort that comes from creative output, jealousy, envy. We don't know why specific people respond negatively to the things that we put out in the world. But overall, what we can say is that it's not our duty to put things out there just to please people, because that's, you know, not moving the needle forward in terms of like the artistic creative conversation. I don't know. I'm finding my advice to be very scattered.
Yeah. At times I think that an artist's goal is to please a certain population of people, or give them something that they can enjoy or want to listen to. And if people don't want to listen to it more than once, then it does feel like a failure. If you're thinking about providing a service, or your music at all is like a business or some type of spiritual supplement or resource for people. So I can relate to the feeling of failure. I don't know. I think what I did was just providing a counter opinion of, hey, I'm somebody that this is good for, that this helps, that enjoys this. Yeah. I hope that was helpful to him.
And, I mean, is there someone else that you know who you think, based on how you responded to it, would also enjoy it, that you could share it with and get their positive feedback? Yeah. I think that might be a nice thing to kind of change that balance.
I'll play you a song in the car on the way home.
Oh, so that person's me. Great.
Yeah, I really recommend this album.
Great. Should we play it on the podcast?
No. I don't want to out this person.
Great. I mean, I think that being sure, though, to listen to their response to what you're offering them, and reflexively adjust the feedback that you give them, or the reassurance or the support based on what you feel like they need, you know, is important, because your relationship with yourself as an artist and your artwork is going to be different than theirs.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the more that you can not make assumptions about what that is, and trying to kind of like solve whatever problem that is, you know, it seems to be sort of missing the overall point, which is to support and encourage this person.
Yes. My general rule of thumb is unsolicited positive feedback is okay. Unsolicited negative feedback, not okay. Wait until it's solicited and then give constructive, if at all possible. If it's things that they can change, focus on those things in the negative feedback, only if it's specifically asked for.
Yeah. I think have a preference personally and observe the opposite in terms of the output that I give other people.
You only give unsolicited negative feedback?
Well, not that I only give unsolicited negative feedback, but like I personally get a lot more out of positive encouragement and like to get validation, and then will come to my own conclusions about how do I best motivate myself and proceed, sort of empowered by that buoying of spirit. But as an advice giver, I sometimes feel that I'm not doing my best service to that person if I don't share with them something that might be off-putting, but is knowledge that I have about a next step that they can take or something that they can look at. And I'm, your comment reminds me that like, I don't want that always. So why would anyone else always want that?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, I think you have great, great gut on it. Just keep it positive and listen.
Is there anything you want advice on?
How to give better advice.
Pause, formulate, and deliver succinctly.
Yeah, I'm not very good at that. Rob's just nodding silently.
There's plenty of fun to be had in the style that you use, but
yeah,
I think it would be received better if you took a second, in 10 seconds, thought about it, and then delivered a succinct message and stopped talking at the end of it and like gave the weight to that period at the end of your thought.
I find that in the format of this podcast, I struggle to do that because I feel compelled to fill the air more so than in a conversation.
Yes, I agree that there's a different consideration when you're doing any kind of radio program, that dead air is scary. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that you're meant to keep there being sound. People will worry that their stereo is turned off. Or
yeah. What's the existential fear for you guys when we stop talking?
Oh, it's that?
I don't know.
No, don't be worried about that.
Oh, okay.
I'm imagining their response. Seem to think that I was okay.
Clever.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's different advice for how to improve your advice in person versus on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that in person, I tend to not give as much direct advice versus the podcast obviously is set up for giving direct advice. Whereas in person, it's more
this is your
active
therapist
listening.
Training, and you're asking them to develop their own advice. Like, so what would you do to make
supporting
that better?
them in doing that.
Yeah.
And sort of fluctuating the flow of my output as more of a color or an emotion or a background of helping them think about it. But I think on the podcast and in person, it leads me to talk in weird circles and confusing, abstract, airy language with no stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is a problem I'm aware of, but still struggling to fix.
Have you ever asked a friend to help you correct a lingual tic, a speech
right
pattern?
now.
Okay. Something that's been really helpful for me in my men's group, Every Man, is they'll call you out anytime that you use a qualifier for an emotion. Anytime you say kind of or a little or somewhat, they say just say the emotion.
Right.
And I'm noticing it a lot more when other people do it now, but they haven't asked me for this help. Like, think that, I don't want to be like, oh, you felt kind of anxious, interrupting you when you're telling me about some situation.
Right.
But I do that now as a practice on Wednesday nights when I'm with this men's group. And I like the way that it's affected my speech.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that is something that you'd like me to do or if you would find that annoying.
I have two vocal tics that I would like assistance with.
Okay.
Probably not live on the podcast.
I figured that I'll do this off air.
Yeah. Saying and
Okay.
versus just being silent. And then,
Okay.
both of those are unattractive to me, or not unattractive, but they inhibit or don't further the point that I'm making. have the potential to come off as cavalier or what's another word for it? That I'm being too sort of a casual tone. Mm-hmm. Too casual of a tone.
It undermines the authority of your voice.
Yes, precisely. So, and also you guys can help hold me accountable for making progress in these respects as well, as long-time evolving listeners of this podcast, evolving with us.
I'm thinking of Squirtles turning into War Turtles, turning into Blastoises.
I don't know what any of those words are.
Those are Pokemon.
It's Pokemon. Oh, Pokemon.
Yes, they evolve.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I, too, wish to be a Squirtle that turns into a Schnurglebob. I just said, but should we get into the questions?
Let's get into the questions. Why don't
Let's frickin' do it.
Yeah.
Choo, 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 choo. This week, we're doing the lightning round
storm on the
first.
horizon.
Yeah. And the distance between the thunder and lightning is getting shorter and shorter, because here come the lightning round questions.
This is my hair standing on end. I'm about to get zapped.
Okay, prepare your hairs.
Prepare your hair, ladies.
Your hairs. This first question comes to us from Ramon Noodles 1, Ramon.
Okay.
Probably meant ramen, but maybe his name's Ramon.
Could have been taken.
I'm starting middle school quite nervous. Should I be nervous?
Yes. If you're nervous, you should be nervous.
Yeah, you should allow for that.
I think that's the best I can do.
Yeah. And then while you're allowing yourself to be nervous, see how it feels to just be in that feeling, to comfort yourself for feeling nervous, to acknowledge that probably every other person going into middle school at any given time in the history of the world has felt some degree of nervousness. You are okay. You are not a freak. You are not weird. You are a middle schooler. It is your job to be like nervous about everything.
I think two alternative questions that they might be also asking is it normal to be nervous or do I need to be nervous?
Right.
The answers to that are yes and no.
Right. And if you wish to reduce your nervousness, trying to push it away or ignore that it's happening are going to multiply it. They're going to stick it in you, and then you're going to feel that it's yeah. That's going to stick right in you. It's going to impale you with its long dick. Yeah. Middle schoolers know about dicks.
Some do.
Yeah. I did, but I didn't know exactly what they looked like at this point, I think. I was imagining all kinds of weird shit.
All right.
Because I didn't have one.
Real quick piece of lightning round advice for this person. Follow your nerves, your fears to their conclusion. I think like, okay, what am I worried is going to happen? Write that down specifically or say it out loud. And then what happens if that happens? Say you're nervous that you'll make a fool out of yourself. Okay, how? By drooling on yourself and a pretty girl seeing it. And okay, then what happens? People laugh at you. And then what happens? You don't have any friends. And then what happens? You don't have anyone to sit with at lunch and you're sad. And then what happens?
Yes. Doing this exercise helps to concretize the sort of what that path would look like and helps distance you from the lens of being entrenched in it. And it helps you to look at it objectively, kind of create a plan, distance yourself.
Yeah. And I think that any specific fear is less scary than a generalized. It's like turning on the lights in a room where there might be something making a noise. You don't know what it is. Seeing that it's a raccoon is a lot less scary than when the lights are still out and it could be any kind of monster. It's amorphous. So just identifying exactly the shape of this monster is going to help you deal with it.
Yes, because any blank space or uncertainty allows your imagination to run wild with it could be and will be the worst thing.
Maybe it's something that was embarrassing for you or difficult for you to deal with in the past and you're worried about that happening again. Well, then you can prepare for that specific situation. Whether it's like tripping over your shoelaces, okay, you can learn how to tie shoes the right way, which there's a 2-minute TED Talk on. We'll post a link in the description if we remember.
Spoiler alert, we forgot. I also would like to say that when I look back on even the most embarrassing things that happened to kids in my school, in middle school,
Please share them here with full names.
yeah. Looking back
Yeah.
as now an adult, those are the most colorful, fun memories. And I don't think less of those people for those things. They're just little moments of nostalgia that I have for that time in my life. And so I know it can be hard to think that, you know, in the moment especially, that you would to think about time in that respect of being so long that eventually it won't matter because you're in the here and now. But rest assured, time heals a lot of wounds.
One of the major experiences that young people don't have that keeps them in some type of immature thinking is that firsthand knowledge of the distance that time gives you and the healing property of that things that were so painful become funny as time goes on, and it might take 10 years, it might take a long time, but if you don't have memories and like a connection to that person who was feeling that way and noticing how different you feel about it now, and then it can seem impossible for things to change. But later on in life you start to recognize, oh yeah, okay, this is temporary, like that thing when I was 10.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to say about this before we move to the next question is that you can always observe the bodily sensation that is being nervous and ask yourself, okay, how is this different from excitement? And what would have to happen for that coin to flip? What are the things that I'm excited about with middle school? Because I'm sure there are things that are, you know, scary, but it's also this really wonderful period of growth and maturity that happens. I mean, yes, puberty is...
And it's a wonderful growth of periods if you're a female. You're welcome.
Yeah. You'll start to have like little boobs, and you know your dick will do different things, right? I assume. Mm-hmm. So it can be a positive period of growth, even though it's tremendously uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It will be. My middle school experience was tremendously uncomfortable. My high school experience was tremendously uncomfortable. I didn't start enjoying life until college. So, and I turned out great.
She did.
Yeah. All right, Ramon.
That was a great
Noodles.
question. Yeah, I would have done a full round on that, but that's okay. I'm glad we lightninged it. We killed it. Next.
Next comes from Aistric. How do I get over a celebrity crush, dating / marrying? I know it's silly, but it's ridiculous how much it troubles me.
Do you ever have a celebrity crush?
Yes, but I've never felt any possessiveness whatsoever over their track of dating other people.
Yeah, I've never really followed that either.
I used to fantasize about the middle Hanson brother, Taylor Hanson, snuggling next to me in bed at night. I was pretty attached to that fantasy. I think I might have had Nick Carter on the left of me and Taylor Hanson on the right, and I was like snuggled in the middle with my boys. That felt nice. That was good. And I think I recognizing the difference between the fantasy that you hold of that person and kind of the specialness and fondness you feel for them and that person out there in the world. Because I think you can recognize and appreciate how that celebrity crush has served you and the meaning that you've injected into it. And as best as you can kind of separate that and be able to acknowledge within yourself that even though that vision is meaningful to you, that person exists somewhere and they're entitled just the way that you are to live their life however they want to. The same way that you are entitled to fantasize about living your lives together.
Right. And I think the opportunity for growth here is in learning how to accept when you're attached to something that is not available to you, something or someone.
Yeah.
That's
what growing up is.
Yeah, it is. We're going to a coming of age podcast today.
Boyhood, the podcast. Yeah. All right. Awesome. MorningWoodCock asks, will people that come with a UV light to inspect carpet for dog pee and stuff say to my parents that there's semen on the floor?
No. Almost definitely not.
Why? Why not? Why wouldn't they do
My
that?
girlfriend has a UV light that she uses regularly.
Yes.
Rocks and just for looking for scorpions. It's been a great source of fun. Lots of things show up as bright white like all bodily fluids or many of them, not just semen. Not all. I don't think blood does. But so I don't know why, unless your parents hired them to investigate whether there's semen in the room.
And the dog pee and stuff is a cover story?
Yeah, exactly. And they shouldn't do that. But okay, maybe let's say you have parents like that. No, I don't think that there are services out there that go into kids' rooms or whatever age you are and search for semen and then give a report back to parents about whether it's
your
there
child
or
is masturbating.
Yeah, exactly.
Beware.
Right. It has to come out of your body some way. Like
You need to feel guilty or
boys
shame.
need a bit of better education about that, in the sense that the way that girls do about periods. I think that like this blood is going to be released from your body. Here's what you can do to manage that.
Yeah.
If you don't
It's normal,
masturbate
natural.
or have sex, or your body will release it while you're asleep.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Great sex ed segment.
Thanks.
Yeah. Cool. So good luck with that.
Yeah.
And this is the last question in the lightning round. Pachoo, pachoo, pachoo. This guy's a phonies. The eye of the storm. Or is it the other side of the storm and the eye was...
The ear of the storm.
Okay. Here's a crumble of earwax out of the ear of the storm. Lie about maternity leave. People get all this extra time off for having a child. Why can't I just say my quote-unquote wife is having a child so I get the time off? I've had a vasectomy, so children are definitely not on my timeline. Sorry, I couldn't finish reading that with a straight face.
It's okay. Okay, why can't you lie about it? You can.
I don't think that you can.
Oh, you can. Are you saying they
Don't they
shouldn't?
need proof?
I think.
Like, aren't you going to be spending the rest of your life lying about the fact that you have a child?
Yeah. And if
You
you're
have to probably prove with some kind of documentation
You think so?
to your employer that you are getting time off.
I would guess that depends on the workplace.
That's probably true.
Like, do you think that they're... Because think about it. If somebody comes in, in 6 months I'm going to be a father, and is like sharing all this joy, and then do you say like, hey, we're going to actually need some proof. We're going to need to see the birth certificate. Or do you just like... I would think that'd be an awkward conversation for the boss to have. I don't know. I haven't been in
But
this
maybe
situation.
it's standard protocol.
Maybe.
If they have like a HR department that's... I don't know. Like when you... wasn't there a thing about airfare for deaths in the family being like discounted or something like that? Or you can get a partial refund maybe on a flight if somebody died.
Yeah.
And there was an episode of Seinfeld where someone tried to claim that and they needed the death certificate.
I don't know.
This is a very
I haven't seen it.
This is not very evidence-based research.
I don't know. I guess like, why don't you abuse the system in all kinds of ways? Because it ruins it for the people who really need it is the big...
Yeah, because it's wrong. So don't do it because it's wrong.
Yeah.
Which is advice I rarely just say flat out, but yeah.
No, if there's a system that can be gamed and you're not hurting anybody, then I'm all for gaming it, and I do that. But in this case, it's like you'll get the right removed from people who are using this to raise a kid, and don't you want to value that as a society? If not, then I guess you have your right to protest that. But I think it's good. I think that workers should be allowed more time off to raise their kids, and we all function better if kids have more attention from their parents.
That's what I was going to say too, is this particular issue, especially depending on where you're coming from, like what country you live in, there's still problems with not getting enough time off, paternity or maternity. And so it's something that's actively being fought for, and it feels disrespectful of that to be gaming it in that way.
If you feel like you're being shortchanged by this, and there's other people who are like freeloading with their paternity time
and their wives,
I have not had a kid, but
ask for more PTO.
It's got to be worse than what you're imagining it is right now. Like, if what you're looking for is more freedom, you have it already than these people.
Yeah, because you're not going to have a kid.
Yes.
So welcome to freedom.
Yeah. If your complaint is like you've adopted a child that doesn't qualify or something, then I think there's an argument.
That's a legit
there.
complaint.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like you're.
No, this person specifically says they've had a vasectomy, so children are definitely not on their timeline.
Right. Well, you can still adopt kids with a vasectomy, but
Children are definitely not on my timeline.
Yes.
I think he's saying, in no respect.
They don't want one.
Don't want one.
Yeah. They might have a change of heart later.
This person doesn't even have a wife.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So don't do this is my advice.
Yeah, don't do this. And like Rob said, if you are looking for more freedom, more vacation, see about how you can go about that, or
consider
evaluate a different job.
Having a kid who can become a rich movie star as a child and pay for all your bills.
There you go.
Be one of those parents.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to adopt them, though, because you've had a vasectomy. Oh, they could be reversed, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so reverse your vasectomy, have a kid, find a wife.
Yeah.
Case closed.
Great.
Pew, pew, pew.
Lightning round over.
Okay.
You ready to move on to the main round?
Sure am.
Ladies and gentlemen, the event you've all been waiting for.
JSaw69, JSAW69, asks, I'm too insecure and clingy. I'm really insecure about myself. Weight, looks, height, intelligence, etc. For reference, I'm 15 years old, female. I do have friends, but I always feel like they only hang around me because they pity me. I recognize that when I'm not being interacted with by someone, I assume they don't like me, and I know that's a bit unreasonable, but I'll just get into my own head and end up overwhelmed. I want to get better at trusting my friends and everyone around me, but I don't know how. Every time I seem to be enjoying hanging out with my friends, I get paranoid that I'm being a burden to them. I've asked them multiple times, and they always say they enjoy hanging out with me, and I think I've started to annoy them with my insecurities. I'm digging myself a hole, and I don't know how to stop. No matter what anyone says, I can't see myself as worth anything, and certainly not deserving of the wonderful friends I have. The new school year is starting soon, and I want to start it on a good foot, but I don't know if I can. I just want to know how I can get more confidence and trust in the people I care about.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first thought that comes to mind is the Lord's Prayer. So I'd like to repeat
please.
that here.
Please do. I don't have it memorized.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
This is the Serenity Prayer.
Is this not the Lord's Prayer?
I think the Lord's Prayer is different.
Okay, well, whatever. I want to give you the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
As far as your insecurities go, I think that you should... Some of these things will change on their own. Some of them are things that are under your control, and some of them are out of your control. So the things that are going to change, you can work to expedite them or just wait. The things that you can change, you can come up with an action plan and take the first baby step towards, say you want to lose weight, if that's something that would be healthy for you to do. I don't know your specific situation, but if a doctor thinks that that's healthy, then take one step in the direction of losing that weight by changing your diet or exercising, for instance. And then wisdom of knowing the difference, that's something that you might seek help from people who have suffered from the same things that you're insecure about. I would recommend, if you have a relationship with your parents where you feel like you can turn to them, turning to them. If that's not a good relationship, older siblings, other family members, trusted teachers, this is where you should turn to support of people who care about you, who you trust. If you don't have people like that, I'd make that a first priority because this is a difficult time to go through on your own.
Great advice.
Thanks.
It does get very hard when you are kind of lost in that emotional spiral to differentiate the things that you can change, the things that you can't, and to see clearly because your mirror becomes so warped. And I actually want to pull out a couple of the things that you said, Jaysaw, and see if we can kind of peel back the curtain on them a little bit. There was a line that you said, no matter what anyone says, I can't see myself as worth anything and certainly not deserving of the wonderful friends I have. So I want to validate that it's really, really difficult to have that feeling of no self-worth or low self-worth. And I've been there a million billion times. And it's a slow uphill battle to build that internal sense of self-worth, especially when you feel like you're starting with nothing. But the cool thing about so much of what you said here is that you offer yourself some counterpoints to that emotional that voice in your head that's saying that I'm worth nothing, which is that you have all these wonderful friends who are telling you that they do want to be around you. And so even though that is really hard, I've completely been there where it's hard to take that at face value because you're so, you feel like you're drowning in your own self-image, the way that you see yourself. You see yourself maybe, I saw myself as this sort of eternal loser. I had some body dysmorphia and I thought I was literally the ugliest person walking the face of the earth. And the more that you can identify that pattern of, okay, what are the things that are in my head that haven't been validated by someone who I trust, and start to investigate, when I compare this to the data and the evidence around me, how do they stack up? So, for example, you have all these friends who are telling you this information, which you can use every time you go to that place to weigh against that internal vision and the concrete words of these people that you care about. And the clue that you are deserving of those friends is that they've stuck around up until this point. And they see you as worthy because they're choosing to spend their time with you. And that's the most precious resource that we have. And so that investment in that other people are putting in you can be the kernel of sort of self-worth that you can start to build your own concept of self-worth around.
Yeah. Ask these people what they like about you.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing to ask for me at least.
Yeah.
But pay attention to and trust what they're saying. If they're people that you trust, there's going to be good in there. And I want to point out that a person's teenage years are the time that they usually, if they ever develop this, develop the understanding, they overcome the idea that everything is all or nothing, that things are black or white, or that people are just good or bad, food is icky or yummy.
I'm still overcoming this.
Yes, a lot of people don't overcome this, especially on a specific topic if it's been hard for them to get past that point of development. But your teenage years are the time when you learn that, there's gradations in value, and I can be annoying to be around and still be a good friend. Like, if I did one thing that was annoying once, the temptation is, in an immature view, to generalize that into meaning, I must be annoying all the time. I must be all bad because I did one thing that was bad for somebody once.
Yeah.
But as you grow, you'll start to examine your own experiences with other people. Of sometimes people let you down. Mom and dad have flaws. A lot of teenagers, when they start recognizing that, will demonize the parent as, they're not perfect like I thought they were before when I was a kid. Now that I've seen something bad about them, they're all bad. Starting to see things as a more rounded, realistic, shades of gray view of the world, you can start to apply that to yourself. And it will help you accept that, there are some things about me that I don't like or that other people wouldn't like. And there are some things that are really good. And my combination makes me a worthwhile person. Some people will be attracted to the things that are bad about me because they're bad about them too. And the way that I've dealt with it, or the way that I see it, is inspiring to them.
Yeah. I had some thoughts in what you were just saying. And it kind of also relates to another quote from this female, this girl that I wanted to pull out, which is, I think I've started to annoy them with my insecurities. On the last episode, we talked a lot about defense mechanisms and projection. And so I want to define that for you, Jsaw, of often these things that we think other people are perceiving about us are things that we are perceiving about ourselves. So I feel that you are probably frustrated with your perception of your insecurities. Because you've been dealing with them for probably close to your whole life. You've been building evidence and compiling, here are all the ways that I'm bad, just like Rob said. And so, when we have that internal conception of ourselves, without realizing it, we often assign it to someone else and say, because I'm annoyed, it's happening all unconsciously. Because I'm annoyed with myself, I'm assuming that Josh is also annoyed with me, or Stacy is also annoyed with me, because that's where your heart and mind are in the moment. And the other thing that happens, like Rob said, when you are looking at things black and white and all good, all bad, is that our brains also have a predisposition to cling on to the negative things. And I'm sure that a lot of the things that are really good about you that your friends and your family probably feel like and don't need to be reminded of, the good things aren't factoring into this narrative that you have about yourself, that, you're unattractive or annoying or whatever all these flaws are that are taking up so much of your brain space right now. It's important to not let the good things slip away because of our brain's natural tendency to cling on to the things that need to be fixed, or we perceive need to be fixed. And hopefully this gives you an extra incentive to be reminded and to go out, like Rob said, and ask people for the good things about you. And people are often really happy to report those things and excited to give you that feedback. You're not burdening them. You're giving them an opportunity to reflect on what they like about you. And then they're more likely to be reminded of the things that they like about you in your daily interactions.
Yes.
And then the last thing I would say is sort of as you've noticed, when you're slipping into this kind of spiral or black hole of like, I just keep digging myself deeper and deeper and deeper. Energy goes where attention flows. So the more, I know this can be a scary thought when you're on that edge of kind of spiraling into something negative. It's important to remember that the next step you take can always be in a positive direction. And at first it seems like just a drop in the bucket in comparison with the tidal wave of negative thoughts that you're having about yourself. But you have to start somewhere in order to grow that seed of positivity and start to fight that tide in the opposite direction and building up the positive things that you're noticing about yourself.
Yeah. This can be a daily gratitude list, just writing down 3 things that you're grateful for in your life or about yourself. Just developing some type of a practice to focus on positive things will make them larger in your life, and it will make you see them more. And then that will help you overcome some of your own frustration with this insecurity, because it won't be the only thing in your mind for so long.
I have a personal caveat. I think the gratitude advice is always good. But I also want to throw in a personal caveat that I have with the gratitude listing.
What's that?
Is that when I was younger, and I was beginning to report on feeling depressed, and any kind of dissatisfaction or negative emotion, as far as how I was interpreting, what was my experience, like especially with my parents. I was told everything's fine, like you should be grateful for what you have. And so I kind of began to associate gratitude with this thing that I was forced to do and this denial of my negative feelings, and something that you just whitewash over them with. And so if that's where you're coming from, Jasoff, if any part of you feels like focusing too much on the positive, or being told to focus on the positive, or the things that you're grateful for, feels like an undermining of the negative emotions that you're reporting, and the insecurities and the annoyances and the frustrations and the sadness of what you're telling us. I also want to say what you're going through sounds really fucking hard. And regardless of to what extent Rob or I have personally been there, or anyone else your age is going through, which they are, I'm sure, it's important that, even though you're 15 and that some of this stuff is, emotionally driven, that we don't act like that makes it non-real in some way, because it is very real, the pain that you're experiencing. And I think that in the future you stand a good chance of experiencing less of it. But to the extent to which you're capable of turning towards the positive or inviting it in or developing that willingness to believe or that trust in your friends and family when they tell you things about you like that you don't annoy them, is going to serve you well. And the earlier you can start building that foundation and working towards that, the better. As long as it doesn't edge out the very valid experience of just sharing in how tough things are for you in those circumstances.
Yes, I'm really glad you said that.
Thanks.
I don't want that gratitude advice at all to sound like something that you're obligated to do. It's just something that you can do if you feel up for it. You're also totally can feel sad and should. If you feel sad, you should give yourself some time to experience that without trying to fix it.
Yeah.
And there will be value in feeling that sadness and that pain. You'll recognize it in other people and have more empathy, and you'll feel more motivated to provide them comfort and support when you witness that in people who are maybe younger than you, or people who are dealing with things that you've already figured out for yourself.
Yeah.
You'll be glad someday that you experience these things, and know that any feeling that you feel right now, it's not always going to feel that way.
Yeah. I think the last piece of advice that I would want to give also is, I'm sure there are so many people your age or, in your network that would resonate with the idea that or the fear of burdening people. And I think finding someone with whom you can connect over that specific point can be a really helpful connection for building trust, because then you both can support each other in overcoming that shared sense of, I'm worried about burdening you as we try to build intimacy. Because that's something that I experience. I've been doing market research on trying to speak my clients' languages as a coach, and almost every single person, when I asked them the question of, do you struggle to ask for help, reported feeling burdened in asking for help, feeling burdened in sharing pain with other people. And every single one of them was also working really hard in their personal and professional lives to help other people. And so we all have this sense that we want to help other people and share in their vulnerability, but oh God, no, mine is such a burden. And that's a really interesting double standard to take a look at in ourselves. That why is it that I'm always happy to help others and get joy and fulfillment out of that, yet I feel a tremendous amount, or maybe a disproportionate amount, of fear in doing the same and unleashing that vulnerability, because we so often fear that our vulnerability is going to be so much more than anyone can handle. We are so irreparably broken that no one could possibly put the pieces back together. It would take an amount of time that the sun's gonna explode before all my issues would be resolved. And that's just not true. We all have sadness, we all have pain, we all have fear. And the more that we can help each other hold those things and deal with them as a group rather than in isolation, the more everyone benefits.
And if you can't find people that you relate to on the specific issues that you're going through right now, whether that's because you feel trapped in your family or your school support network, your friends leave you behind, people your age do cruel things. If that ever happens, turn to art.
Yes.
Seriously.
I mean,
look for music that you relate to, read books, see plays, whatever it is, whatever
Draw,
medium
paint.
you're into. Right. I'm not talking about creating art. I'm talking about consuming it.
Oh, okay.
This is why people's musical tastes are stuck in their teenage years, because it's the time that they most need to feel that someone else is feeling the things that they're feeling. And so if there's that Eminem song that came on the first time I was mad at my parents, that forever to me will be like, oh, it's okay that I feel this way. Someone else has felt this way, and it'll have a special place in my heart. So look to music, find your own tastes on these things, and there will be someone who has experienced something like what you're going through, and feel that connection with that person, even if you can't contact them. And, if you are a big fan of some author or a musician a writer, they love receiving messages about this stuff. If you want to give them a short story of how this impacted you, it will probably mean a lot to them if they ever read it. And if they don't, it'll feel good for you just to express it.
Absolutely. That's amazing advice. And I'm sorry that I jumped to the conclusion of that you were advising her to make art.
That's also a good route, but can be scarier. Or, you know, if you're insecure about the quality of the art, just consume it first. And then if that inspires you to want to make, you know, say that you're a big fan of Selena Gomez's music and then you want to do a cover of one of her songs or something, then that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And in this particular case, too, because we often can spin around in our heads so much these same thoughts over and over. And I know that you were describing your experience that way, Jaysaw. Writing it down and just getting it on a piece of paper can also make it less scary. And you can literally look that piece of paper in the face and go, yep, those are my feelings right there.
Yeah.
And once they're on that paper, you can identify that it's a separate thing from you. Even though you still feel it, you're still connected to that feeling. It's something that you've pinned down. And even in writing this question, you've done that. You've pinned it down. And so I hope that you can start to kind of grow a sense of these are feelings that I can slip in and out of. Mm-hmm. There are breaks where I don't feel that way, where I feel connection or trust. And then ask yourself, okay, what's enabling me to feel that way right now? Yeah. How can I repeat that experience?
Where you feel secure, where you feel valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. And remembering what it feels like when you're out of that emotional torrent, when you're in that emotional torrent, knowing how it feels in your body so that the next time you kind of get into that spiral, you can identify, I think I'm spiraling.
Yes. If you write down the positive times too, you'll start to notice there are patterns. There are certain people, situations, and activities where I feel valuable, where I feel secure, and you'll start to seek those people, situations, activities more.
Yeah.
And that's the process called differentiating. What? You're looking at me all surprised.
Yeah, right? I've just never heard it termed that. Yeah, go ahead.
Recognize what is different about you from other people, what you're uniquely good at, when you notice what value you have that other people don't, and you proceed in that direction.
I want to ask you a question right now. What value do you think you have that is uniquely you? Differentiate yourself.
Sure. I'm funny. I help people see the ways that things that they think are a big deal are actually not a big deal in comparison to something else. I help people reorient their perspective, and I provide a calming type of attention to people. I'm also a good host and plan things that allow people to connect with one another in a way that's satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. So
there's other stuff, but I don't need to go on a rant right now.
Yeah, we get it. You don't have a problem listing these things. But it can be as easy as that, Jason. And you're not going to have maybe as easy of a time as Rob because he's done a lot of this self-exploration and actually listing those things out. But just ask yourself. Be brave enough to ask. And
maybe a second follow-up assignment, maybe not at the same time, but what are the things that you'd like to be true about you in that category?
Yeah.
You know?
Who do you want to be when you're 17 or 25?
A good way to do that is who do you admire, and then what do they do that you wish that you did? If it's Selena Gomez, what do you like about the way that she sings? Am I picking somebody that kids aren't into anymore?
I have no idea. I personally don't like Selena Gomez because I don't think she really can sing.
Billie Eilish, then.
Sure.
She's popular right now. That's hard to argue with.
Good choice.
So, like, what is it about Billie? Is it the way that she talks so openly about these negative emotions or, like, goes into scary thoughts? I don't know. I like Billie's production.
Yeah. It's obvious. It's obvious.
That's what I like about Billie. And I don't think she has that much to do about it, but I like her taste.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And once you identify that, again, it's something that you can point to go, okay, this is a tangible goal that I can take step towards. It's not abstractly, I'm nowhere near that.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So... good luck, Jaysaw. Yeah, you are going to be just fine.
And thank you so much for posting this question on the internet. You have been the opposite of a burden. You have been a gift to us today because you've inspired us to talk about all these things and help us make this podcast better. So thank you.
Yeah. If I had like a fucking dime for every time I've felt the way that you felt, I would be a very, very, very rich fucking bitch.
Yeah.
and I've overcome it.
Morgan was searching on the internet for probably 10, 15 minutes today. Like, oh, there's no good questions. There's no good questions.
True.
And then she landed on yours and she was like, I've got it. All right.
Yep.
We've got a great one. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's do this. And
That's
I felt
true.
such relief. And I felt like, all right, we've got a good episode coming up. So thank you for posting that. It really, it affected the course of our afternoon in a positive way.
Yeah. I feel really good right now. I feel really
Me too.
good. Cool.
All right, you guys. Sleepyheads, tuck yourselves in. Hope you had a
The assumption that it's nighttime is infuriating to me because it's fucking 5 p.m.
Listen, people start the podcast on their drive to work.
Uh,
They listen to the lightning round on the way home and while they're cooking dinner. And then as they're winding down and doing their late night calisthenics and stretching routine, that's when they end the podcast as they tuck themselves into bed. They turn the volume way up while they're brushing their teeth with their electric toothbrush for the end of our long question session. And then they close their eyes right as the outro music comes in, just like this. And they start listening to the most distant sound they can hear, and they sink into that vortex of rest, comfort, and security, knowing that they're going to be okay tomorrow and next week, because Free Advice Podcast is going to be back. And anytime that they have issues, they know that they can just write us at freeadvicepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll answer their questions with love,